Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are taking our very first look at the new Tier 4 Premium Italian Cruiser, Genova. So, with that being said, let's look at our commander. We are running Luigi Sansonetti with Norman Scott and Nikolai Kuznetsov as our commander inspirations. We are running Beyond Range, Igniter, Punch Through, Fixated, and Refill Station. Alright, just put that in perspective. We are running Refill Station, which is something I don't run very often on a cruiser. Genova, let's look at its equipment. We're running Aiming Systems Mod 1. If we go to the loadout, you can see we get a plane and we get a sonar. No smoke, anything like that. We do get the community contributor flag on this thing, and we are running the camo that comes with the ship. Stats. Survivability is 30,100 with a 7% torpedo damage reduction. Artillery, it has 203mm 50 caliber guns, which are fantastic, except that they take 19 seconds to reload. They do reach out to 15.2 kilometers, and the 180-degree turn time is pretty slow as well at 25.7 seconds. HE shell maximum damage of 2,800 with a 17% chance of setting fires, and AP shell maximum damage of 5,076. Secondaries, you have 102mm 35 caliber autos that reach out to 4.2 kilometers. You have 12 of them, and they reload in 4 seconds. HE shell maximum damage is 1,450 with a 9% chance of set fires. Torpedoes. This is kind of the calling card of this ship and something you have to be very, very aware of if you're against it. Torpedo launchers, you have 533mm, yep, we'll go with that, with 8 of them, and they reload in just 47 seconds. Yeah, you didn't hear that wrong. 47-second reload on torpedoes. Meaning this thing is not something you want charging at you, because it can launch torpedoes, plus it has 8-kilometer range. It is essentially a cruiser kamikaze, okay? And if you decide to turn to give a broadside to avoid a potential torpedo strike, it'll tear you up that way too. So you got to be careful. They are very slow torpedoes at 51 knots, so keep that in mind. But that means they are also sneaky torpedoes, only getting spotted at 1 kilometer. Maximum damage is 9,067. So not the hardest hitting torpedoes. But again, you get 8 of them, 4 on either side of the ship, and they reload in 47 seconds. So keep that in mind. 76mm 40 caliber and soldos is your AA. You get 4 of those doing 8 damage per second and reaching out to 3 kilometers. And then you have the 102mm 35 caliber autos that you have 12 of doing 34 damage per second, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers. Like I said, AA basically non-existent. You don't have any. Maneuverability, though. Maximum speed of 34.5 knots is respectable. Turning circle of 660 meters is not that bad. And the rudder shift time, while it is a bit slow for a cruiser, is still not that bad and definitely does allow you to dodge quite a bit of rounds, especially at medium range. Concealment, though. This is where this ship is absolutely ridiculous. Detectability of just 9 kilometers, even though it is half the size of an Iowa. I don't know how that works. I mean, this thing literally is a long cruiser, man. When you see this thing in game, you'll know what I'm talking about. 5.6 kilometers by air. 2 is always guaranteed. 5.1 kilometer detectability in smoke. Armor. Also not the worst armor in the world. It does take hits pretty well. Even battleships. You do get overmatched, obviously. You only have 16mm of plating, meaning that anything with 238mm... Anything higher than, I think it's 228 millimeters, can overmatch the bow. I know everybody always likes to talk about this. They're like, oh, look, 203 millimeters and lower can ricochet. Yeah, that doesn't tell me what the overmatch is. But everybody always like, Spartan, you can go over and look at the thing and it'll tell you. It's like, that's not telling me the overmatching. That literally tells me nothing. So anyway, you're safe against cruisers, bow tanking. And against battleships, you're going to take hits through the bow. But I have yet to be citadeled through the bow. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it hasn't happened yet. There is a lot of empty space between the bow of this ship and the citadel. So let's show the citadel, shall we? As you can see, the Citadel is a raised Citadel. It's something that we all know and love in Italian cruisers, if you've played them, and also the Russians. That raised Citadel will get you dev struck if you go broadside in front of anybody and you do not ricochet their shells. Like, that is just death waiting to happen. But that being said, look how much empty space you have at the bow. Okay, the time it takes for a shell to go through the bow plating and into that Citadel, you're not likely to be as, well, you're not as likely to be Citadel through the front. Now, through the rear, you're definitely likely to be Citadel, because it definitely seems to be a lot less space between the rear and the front. I don't know, maybe it's just a matter of perspective, but I haven't been Citadel through the rear, I haven't been Citadel through the front, and I haven't been Citadel through the side yet. This thing is actually a formidable cruiser, if not for the fact that the guns take 20 seconds to load. That is abysmal. Like, that is awful. There's nothing good about that. The guns are very good, it's just they take so freaking long to load, it's ridiculous. So what are the traits here? Hidden. Good concealment, we already talked about that. Fast. Above average maximum movement speed. It is pretty decent. It's not amazing. It's 34.5 knots, but it's not bad. Big guns, 203mm guns at Tier 4 are actually devastating. You know how devastating the Pensacola is at Tier 5. And the Furry Taco is the only other one that comes to mind at Tier 4. Maybe there's another heavy cruiser from the British heavy cruiser line at Tier 4. I can't remember. I'm sure there is. But there's a very limited number of heavy cruisers at Tier 4. And they dominate at Tier 4, because light cruisers, if they give up any extra angle from a light cruiser equals Citadel City for these heavy cruisers. And this is no exception, as we're going to demonstrate in the match. So Genova, the project of a high-speed cruiser with 203mm main guns, designed under the Washington Naval Treaty limitations. By appearance, she retained the features of ships belonging to an earlier era of ironclads. She served as a prototype for the Trento-class cruisers. She was designed in 1923, never built. But look at this thing, for real. Okay, first of all, look at the area of where your torpedoes are. They're under the deck, right? They are inside an armored box, essentially. You're not going to have to worry about that. Now, that does limit the torpedo angle slightly, but this thing still has fantastic torpedo angles due to the fact that they're mounted further back than the center of the ship. So, it's not the worst. Not the best, but not the worst torp angles. And again, look at the size of this ship. Like, for goodness, you can't even fit it all on the screen. It is massive. But it's not a particularly good-looking ship. It's not the worst-looking ship either, but it's not a particularly good-looking ship. It's kind of just straight lines, and then you got a triple stack there with the catapult plane right there, just begging for it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on my favorite map, Estuary, and we're in the new Genova. Now, we are top tier in this, so keep that in mind. I have played, this is only my second match, okay? So keep that in mind as well. But I have played 2 matches in this thing, and I'll be honest, it doesn't have anything really other than the torpedoes and the concealment that stick out to me as fun and unique. And the torpedoes are so freaking slow that by the time you actually launch at anything, they know that you're launching and they can easily dodge them. It is so easy to dodge this thing. However, we are going to showcase this thing in its strength, and I think that's going to be the part that most people struggle with. In the first match, I was in Neighbors, and I was in a Xbox-only lobby of a 6v6, which is always fun, right? We were also bottom tier. And this thing did exactly what you would expect it to do. It went out, it hit things pretty decently. It's not incredibly powerful. It's not incredibly weak. It's kind of a middle-of-the-road, you know, generic, general purpose, has no purpose kind of cruiser. But like I said, the thing that holds it back is that reload. That reload is awful. This might be one of those ships that you decide to change up your inspirations on. Like, I know I went with a pretty standard inspiration loadout and whatnot. You may want to go all in on knocking that reload down, because with as high a reload as it has, you're going to be able to knock some of that off pretty well. I bet you could probably get this thing down to like a 14-second reload, maybe 15-second reload, which is more in line with what you get out of a Pensacola at Tier 5. Now, if you look at the Furry Taco has a ridiculously good fire rate for its 203s, firing at 13 seconds, I think, at Tier 4. I could be wrong. I'm going off of, you know, just what I remember of the ship. But fairly confident it's somewhere in that neighborhood of, you know, 13 seconds to reload the guns, and it does really, really well. I like the Furry Taco quite a bit. But this thing kind of falls back a little bit from the Furry Taco. Now, one thing it does have going for it is the ability to just go at somebody. You've got fast reloading torps. They've got decent range at 8 kilometers. It's going to take time for them to get there, but you can launch a salvo at the edge of your range and then be able to launch another salvo as you close in on them. Now, you don't have any speed boost or anything like that. You're not incredibly fast. You are decently quick, and it's going to take some good positioning to have good games in the ship, just due to the lack of DPM that these guns provide. Like, when you get an opportunity to smash people with AP, you got to take it. Battleships are no exception. You want to aim a little higher on battleships, get that upper side plating rather than the belt, but when you get the opportunity to smash battleships, you definitely want to take it. Now, you can see the reason that these torpedoes are so fast reloading is because they're dual torp launchers. So you have 4 of them per side, and you can get some very, very tight torp angles due to... just look at the torp angles. I mean, you can almost launch all the way over the bow of the ship from these torp angles. So I do like the torp angles. You can see I immediately recognize that the Wyoming is coming at us, so we're going to turn out, get into a kiting position, because we don't want him to be firing that American armor piercing up close, even though that looked like AG. We want to keep our ability to somewhat dodge as we get hit by the Omaha. But you can see here, we're going for the HE, we're going for the fires. It looks like we may have gotten him with a torpedo here. Come on, look in, Spartan. Yeah, there we go. At least 1, maybe 2, but I think 1 for sure. And there you go. Not the biggest hit, 7,000 damage with the torpedo hit. So again, not a huge deal. And we didn't get a flood, unfortunately. That's going to be the other downside of this. It doesn't seem to cause floods with torpedoes as often as some ships, being that they're 533 millimeters. But still, at the end of the day, they're torpedoes. They hurt. They may not hurt as much as Japanese torpedoes, but they still hurt. If you take a couple of torpedoes, you're going to have a bad day. At these low tiers. Now, obviously, we've been trying to help barbecue this guy. We've got him with a torpedo. He's still on fire from the guy behind me, and that's the other thing. This thing supposedly has a 17% chance of setting fires, but it really doesn't feel like it does. A lot of cruisers have the ability to set fires really quickly, and it's not because of their fire chance, it's because of how many shells they can get on target and the amount of time. And because this thing has such a slow fire rate, it doesn't feel like it has a 17% chance to set fires. It feels like it's much lower than that. But you can see I look out to my right. I've got a Bellerophon coming into the base. I've got a Bellerophon on my left coming out towards me. And I've got an Omaha pushing across mid heading towards the base. So I go ahead and make the decision to stay stealthy. Go ahead, switch my ammo over to the armor piercing and prepare for an engagement with the Omaha. Now, watch how long it takes these guns to get to the other side of the ship here. All right, we've already started them. Remember, it takes 25 seconds for these things to go 180 degrees. It's awful for a cruiser. It is awful. But they are going to get there in time. You have to plan ahead, get ready for it, and this Omaha is not ready for what he's about to be into. Remember what I said about 203s and absolutely slaughtering cruisers at low tiers. And this is going to be no exception. This man's angled away from us in an Omaha, which is known for being citadeled, and that is money, baby. 3 citadels with the first guns. We fire the rear guns at him. We get another citadel, only 1 though, and then we turn back in. But look how long it takes these guns to load. Like, he should have been dead by now. Any other cruiser, this man's gone. But because of the long reload, we had to wait a little longer. He gets a shot against us, doesn't do anything, and we managed to take him down. And now we set our sights on the Bellerophon. And this Bellerophon knew that he was screwed from the moment he saw me. I don't know if he's played against this thing or if he has this thing. This man knew that he was in trouble from the moment he saw me. Now, we fire the armor piercing because that's what we had loaded up into the superstructure. We get a decent chunk of damage. We dodge the torpedoes that we knew would be coming from the Omaha. And now we're going to push in on this Bellerophon. Now, remember what I said about the Bellerophon. Or not the Bellerophon, but this thing. This thing can launch torpedoes every 45 seconds. And it's got 4 of them on either side of the ship. So watch what I'm going to do. As he's reversing, we're going to over-angle. Obviously, and it's got sneaky torp angles. They're not the best torp angles, but they are very good torp angles. So it can sneak the torps at angles that you wouldn't expect to be snuck on. And we're going to go ahead and drop these torpedoes. Anticipating a turn a little bit here. And then we're going to angle back in. Again, showcasing the bow of the ship. He is hitting us with those battleship guns, and he has not citadeled us yet. We fire the HE at him again. We get another 1,300 damage, getting some nice penetrations there with the HE. And you can see he is getting damage with his secondaries, and he's also getting damage with his main guns shooting at the bow of our ship. Now here we open up, we get our torpedoes off again. This one more obvious than the first one that I was torping him. But this guy's going to do a pretty decent job of trying to avoid the torpedoes here. He's going to get pretty fortunate. The one torpedo that could have gotten him slips right past him. He's definitely going to take at least one from this set of torpedoes. But remember, the beauty of this thing's torpedoes is I launched at long range, the initial one. We've gotten this guy zigzagging all over the place to try to dodge torpedoes. We actually missed him again with those torpedoes, but we have another set loaded. And even he, as good as he's done so far at keeping himself from being torped, isn't going to be able to dodge these torpedoes, unfortunately for him. We get some more shots into him, and we do manage to hit him with 2 torpedoes and take him down. Now, keeping in mind that we have to make sure that we keep ourselves in position to help the team here. This game could go either way still. There's still a carrier in place, so we've got to keep an eye out for planes. We've got a cruiser out there fighting a battleship in open water, and we've got a battleship here just out ahead of us that we need to pay attention to. Then we've also got to, like I said, there is a carrier who is going to try to attack us, and we've got to keep an eye out for him as well. But the Königsberg out here sailing around broadside, we're going to go ahead and look at him with the next shot. We fired the front guns at him and the rear guns at the battleship. Didn't manage to hit the front guns at him, but the friendly battleship is going to be able to overmatch and take down the Königsberg, and that's going to allow me to focus all of my firepower on the enemy New York. And you're going to see just how nasty these things can be, even if they don't reload very often. We get 3,500 damage right there, plus a fire. He immediately damage cons, and that's where this goes horribly wrong for this ship. He damage cons a single fire. Any other cruiser immediately lights him on fire, and he's burning for 10 years. This thing, because it has so few DPM and you're not able to reload as often, you can't take advantage of the fact that the guy damage cons a single fire. We don't get a fire right away, so that's another 16 seconds gone. So, or no, 19 seconds gone. We do manage to slow down and turn out and avoid the torpedoes. I think the one may have hit us but didn't arm, so there's that. But here, we get another shot into him, another no fire. Are we going to get him with the front? Now here we get going, and he does hit us with an overpin. It hits a little high, but we again hit him and 0 fire. And so this is what I'm talking about. The lack of DPM here is rough. In not being able to set those perma-fires that you thrive off of in a cruiser. Cruisers thrive off of perma-fires. And because this thing reloads so slowly, you can't really count on those perma-fires like you can in other cruisers. We do finally get a perma-fire, and so that's going to take a little while, but over half of his damage con cooldown's gone, so it's not going to be as damaging of a perma-fire as it would have been if we'd have got it on the first salvo. We do get another shot out against him, and we get another fire finally, and that gives us our high caliber. So now he's double fired. That's going to be a little better for us. And we're going to continue to fire at him. And the enemy battleship, or the friendly battleship, managed to hit him for a little bit of damage here. And then we're going to be able to hit him once again, getting really good shot against him. 8 penetrations there, and he goes down with the fire. So in the end, it didn't really hurt us too much, but at the same time, in any other cruiser, this could have been a massive game. 120, 130,000 damage game in any other cruiser. But because of this thing's lack of DPM, it doesn't like to do these high damage games very often. You're going to have really, really good positioning, really good games, and really pay attention to or plan out your ammo switching, which is something that cruiser players don't usually have to worry about. Most cruiser players, you don't have to worry about switching ammos, because when you do switch ammos, you're loaded so quickly that it doesn't really matter. But in this thing, you actually have to plan it out. So I think battleship players going to cruisers would probably do better in this than your standard cruiser players. But this thing is a fun ship. I don't think I recommend it just due to the fact of that terrible DPM. I'm not even gonna like calculate. I'm just saying that it has terrible DPM. I haven't calculated it, but a 19-second reload on 8 guns is not gonna be a huge DPM for a cruiser. But either way, we've got the Hosho here, and we did get a good hit on him with the front guns. We're gonna go ahead and fire the rear, and we've already launched torpedoes at him, and then he gets absolutely smashed by the friendly Koenig at the back of the map, getting the best RNG he's ever gotten probably for that salvo. But we did our best. I think we had a pretty solid game, just shy of 100k at tier 4. Top of the leaderboard, almost 2,000 base XP, 3 kills. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.